Okay, so today we're going to go on to Chapter 2, Section 5, Operations with Rational Numbers, and we're going to add. So it doesn't matter if you look up here, it says if m over n is any rational number, then negative m over n. It doesn't matter if the negative appears in the numerator or if it appears in the denominator. The whole fraction is negative. Okay, so if you have two numbers, what this is showing you over here, right here, is that if you have two numbers with the same denominator, all you're going to do is add the numerators and keep the denominator. Okay? Now, over here, if you have different denominators, we have to find a common denominator and then move on from there. So I gave you an example right here, 1/5 plus negative 2/3. We have to find a common denominator, which is 13ths. 1/3 equals 3/15. Negative 2/3 equals negative 10/15. And I have the work right there for you here in the middle. Right here. And now, let me erase that though now so we can see this. 3/15 plus negative 10/15. We have different signs for our numerator. 3 is positive, 10 is negative, so we subtract. 10 minus 3 is 7, and we keep the sign of the number that has more. We have more negatives than we do positives, so your answer is negative 7/15. Negative 7/15 right here. Okay, so now we're going to try this one over here together. So our denominators are 7 and 30 and 5, so our common denominator is going to be 35. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite these. So this whole fraction, to get 7 into 35, we're going to have to multiply this whole fraction by 5, and negative 5 to turn that into 35. We're going to have to multiply that whole fraction by 7. Okay? So now, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, and remember this whole fraction is negative, so we can move the negative up here, it doesn't really matter. And negative 3 times 7 is negative 25. So now we have two numbers with the exact same sign, negative 10 plus negative 21, so same sign sum, so I'm going to add those, and I'm going to get negative 31 over 35. And it won't fit there, so I'll write it right here, negative 31 over 35. We'll cross that out. Okay? Then for the next one, I have negative 1/9 plus negative 2/5. Okay, so for this one, 9 and 5, I find a common denominator of 45. Okay, so what do I do to 9 to turn it into 45? I multiply by 5, so negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. And what do I do to negative 5 to turn it into 45? I multiply that by 9. So remember, we can move that negative up here. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. So again, we have same sign sum. So negative 5 plus negative 18 is negative 23/45. Okay, so you have an additional problem on your paper, which is the negative 1 1/6 one. So I'm going to have you, this is number 2, I'm going to have you try question number 3 on your paper right now, and I will get back to it at the end when I have extra room. I will come back to question number 3 after we do subtraction. Okay, but I'm going to pause right now, and you can go ahead and try question number 3 right now, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit. So I'm going to pause it for you to have a minute to work that out. It is negative 1 1/6 plus 3 4/9 plus negative 1/3. Okay, so go ahead and work that one out now. Okay, so we're going to go on to subtraction. We'll come back to that problem you just worked out at the end when I have a little extra room. Now, for subtraction, again, if your denominators are the same, you just subtract your numerators. If your denominators are different, you have to find a common denominator and then you subtract. Okay, so we're going to start over here with this first example right here. We have 2/5 minus 1/2. Again, we need to find a common denominator, which is tenths. So you end up with 4/10 minus 5/10. You want to change those signs. Remember, keep, change, change. So you end up with 4 plus negative 5, and you get negative 1/10. And remember, the fraction can go with the numerator, denominator, or in front of the entire fraction. So let's try example 1 over here. We have 2 1/4 minus 4 2/3. My common denominator for 4 and 3 is 12. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do is turn 2 1/4 into an improper fraction. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is going to give me, that is 9/4 minus 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2 is 14/3. Okay, and I'm going to erase this real quick. because that doesn't look like a 9/4. Oh, it won't let me, so hopefully you can tell that that's a fourth. Now we need a common denominator of 12. 4 times 3 is 12, 9 times 3 is 27, and so we have 27 twelfths. 3 times 4 is 12, and 14 times 4 is 56. So I have 27 twelfths minus 56 twelfths. Okay, so remember, we are going to keep, change, change. So now I have 27 twelfths plus negative 56 twelfths. So we need to subtract, and we get negative 29 twelfths, which is equal to negative 2 and 5 twelfths. That's your final answer, negative 2 and 5 twelfths. Okay, so I am going to have you now try the next one on your own, 1/4 minus 3/10, and then I will come back in a minute and go over it with you. Okay, so 1/4 and 3/10 are common denominator. I just multiplied them together. You could use 20, but it doesn't matter. So that gave me 4 times 10 is 40, 1 times 10 is 10, 10 times 4 is 40, 3 times 4 is 12. So we multiply this whole thing by 10 and this whole thing by 4. So now I have 10 40ths plus negative 12 40ths because I changed my sign. Remember, keep, change, change when it's subtraction. One's positive, one's negative, I subtract. So I got negative 2 40ths, which reduces to negative 1 20th. Okay, so I'm going to erase that real quick, and then I'm going to scroll down here so I can do that one problem, number 3, that I had skipped from up at the top because I did not have enough room. So I have negative 1 and 1/6 plus 3 and 4/9 plus negative 1/3. So you can check your work now. So we need a common denominator for all of these, which is 18. Okay, so negative 18 plus 18 plus 18. Okay, so what I did first, though, actually, and I'm going to write it above here, is I changed these again to mix to improper fractions. So I got negative 7/6 plus 31/9 plus 1/3. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7/6. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 4 is 31, and then 1/3 was already just a proper fraction. Okay, so now I need to multiply this whole fraction by 3, this whole fraction by 2, and this whole fraction by 6. Okay, so negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. 31 times 2 is 62. And negative, this fraction is a negative. It's hard to tell, which means this is negative. Negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. Okay, and this was negative 62. All right, so this is already an addition problem. So 62 minus 21 is going to give us 41. So this is positive 41/18 plus negative 6/18. So we need to subtract again. 41 minus 6 is going to give me 35. So we get 35/18. 18 goes into 35 one time with 17/18 left over. So your answer should have been 1 and 17/18. Okay, we will work on this again in class today. So I hope you had a great night, and see you tomorrow.